This video is called Fraternal Groups, Greek Societies, and Organized Rape Culture. It is obvious that I'm right, and everyone should be able to see it right away and do the research. Okay. It's also sad that whether or not someone is targeted already, they expect more pushback than support when they speak on this issue because of how many members of fraternal organizations there are, and not just Greek societies. They're involved in covering up this rape culture. The Me Too movement hasn't done enough. When we look at Greek mythology itself, it shows you the sort of mind state of the people at the time and what they considered acceptable, and it gives away the rape culture, as does pederasty. Okay, the idea of an older gentleman presenting flowers and chocolates or whatever to a younger person, a young male, a young boy, and basically convincing him to sleep with him, okay, without this person even being gay already, right? They turn them out. This is a key part of the culture and is very much associated with Athens. So let us look at the fraternal groups, right, in colleges, the Greek societies. One study has shown that they are 3 times more likely to rape, okay? And there's many examples of really atrocities they have done. I would call it that, atrocities, when one considers the continuity of this unchecked culture and how quite often they're racist and black fraternities are banned because this is like white society's way of saying they have a monopoly on rape, okay, and sexual control, and it plays out as rape because when you see them for who they are the continuity of sniveling fraternal worms who have abused women unfairly for generations and have covered it up to protect their forefathers' legacy. Okay, this is right, left, and middle. Fraternities include conservative places like Alabama. They include liberal places like California. Okay, this is pervasive in Western culture, especially American culture. There was the case of the University of Wisconsin and Milwaukee, where several women were found intoxicated, basically had been raped, and they had red and black X's that were labeled, they were labeled with red and black X's. The X is a reference to the chi rho, right? The P superimposed on the X, which has to do with Constantine. People who are occultists into the martial arts almost certainly know this idea. This is essential theme, I'd say, in the occult. It is the idea of the worldly energy, okay, being what matters. And it also has to do with the chi or the ki in martial arts culture. Where did I put this magazine? Okay, here we go. The chi rho, chi and ki, right? So some people call it ki, some people call it chi, and some people spell it ki, some people spell it qi. Okay. And ki is a Sumerian earth goddess. This is no small problem, and this is no small point. Write this point down. It is key. It is what conspiracy theorists leave out because it has everything to do with where these cults come from and how they eventually became fraternal orders in Greek societies when they migrated through Crete to Greece and ultimately to Rome, and then spread with the Roman Empire all over Europe. Okay? And they came into contact with various pagan groups of people and quote-unquote civilized them, but really exerted sexual dominance and sexual control over these pagan cultures, which quite often included rape cultures, already. So we have the University of Georgia, right, where a fraternity member sent out a luring your rape bait email and was caught doing that. Okay. The Texas University, where they had 3 sexual assaults at a fraternity within a month. Wesleyan had a frat that was labeled a rape factory. In 2010, Yale, George Bush, the war on terror, okay, where rape is an issue in the war on terror, and so is women's rights and women's liberation. Okay. They went around chanting, this fraternity at Yale, no means yes, and yes means anal. There was a 2014 study at the University of Oregon where they said 40% of sorority sisters were either raped or a victim of an attempted rape, and 48% of them had non-consensual touching. And I'll put my sources in the comments, even though it's going to hurt my ears to do so. Long story. Okay, so also a UO task force evaluating sexual violence concluded that fraternities are dangerous places for women. Sorority sisters are often fined for missing fraternity events. And there's basically a process of sort of grooming them and forcing them to date certain fraternities that are coupled with that sorority. So it is a sort of kind of rape culture rivalry that's taken place over who dates who, who's teamed up with who, and who is grooming and turning out who for the greater corporate culture that they're going to be a part of. And quite often these Me Too victims are victims of corporate rape culture. So the sororities and fraternities are basically grooming women and men in some cases to be victims and keep their mouths shut when they move on later in life to join these corporations. And ultimately that's given Western culture a PR lift. It's given college culture, where 1 in 5 women are said to be victims of rape, a PR lift, where 74%, you're 74% more likely to be raped. I forgot, there's a statistic, 74%. I'll put it in the comments. I believe it had to do with being a member of a sorority. Anyway, they're fuming me and drugging me, making it harder for me to say these things. Ultimately, by doing it this way, you're taking the most attractive women and the most healthy women, generally speaking, into college, recruiting them into sororities, recruiting them into different groups that go party with the fraternities, which is part of college life, and they're basically coming into states of mind that make it harder for people who aren't in fraternal organizations to date them. Okay, think about that. What happens is that most people in Western culture, in a sexualized culture, in a drug culture, in an alcohol-based culture, okay, they're not very good people. So when they perceive that women are dating scum, and they look at it as gold diggers, for better or worse, there's them being gold diggers, they want to rape women more. So now we have people who aren't in fraternities date raping women, and so on. And then you combine that with the false accusations, okay, that occur. People are targeted, and lured into situations where they're far more likely to rape, right? Sometimes the rapists themselves are given drugs and technologies to guide them to rape so that they don't speak on the greater rape culture. You have to understand how deep this goes. If any of you think that doesn't occur, you're an idiot. You're stupid. How far do you think these people go to cover this up? You think they don't stigmatize the opposition, the old turn it around? How many times do we hear this saying, you're turning things around, okay? You're blaming the victim, okay? Some of the greatest victims of the rape culture are innocent men who are falsely accused of rape because they're exposing the rape culture. Okay, so there's also homecoming invitation pressure, right? Goes back to the social norms they're reinforcing. And ultimately, a lot of these people become psychiatrists and mental health professionals and enforce the rape culture by enforcing nonsensical rape culture-derived social norms on everyone else and drugging them if they're not complicit. Okay? He's crazy. There is no rape culture kind of thing, right? When the core of the rape culture is the foundation of Western society, which is the various Greek and Roman deities that are rapists. Zeus turns out, who's this guy? Ganymede. Okay, he rapes people just like Neptune and Poseidon. They rape people in various forms. They take on different forms, right? There's different techniques, forms, and katas, techniques in martial arts. So you say, well, what can people do when you look at how pervasive this is and how people's families, support the rapists themselves and continue their culture and quite often go to the same schools that their parents are alumni members of. Okay. Well, it goes back to what I've been saying the whole time. Wake up, right? It's right there in the word. Way, ka, meaning spirit, up, right? The spirit of Ra, the spirit of horse. Okay? The way is to key up. When they key up in martial arts. But the true source of martial arts is the true spirit of God. You also have the word kick the habit. People are in the habit of being complicit and conforming to these social norms. Okay? And that also has to do with when people plead no contest. Okay? They're not trying to vie in court against the con system, and that's why it's called no contest. So part of the problem also is the things that people consume. The drugs, the fillers, the preservatives, the additives, the different forms of alcohol, the different intoxicants, right? Legal drugs and otherwise, psych meds, some of these things doctors prescribe, and so on and so forth. Okay, GMOs perhaps. It's also there in the martial arts, right? Rear naked chokehold, grapple, grapple. Why are martial artists who are supposed to have the highest standard of honor and morals not speaking about this, not effectively applying techniques masterfully to address it? Because other martial artists are part of the problem. That's why it's called the rear naked chokehold. Grappling, grape L, L meaning Lord. Okay, grape goes back to Pan, whose name means all, just like pacify, name means all, right? Pass meaning all, Pan meaning all the Greco-Roman deities. Okay, pacify, a deity that is associated with King Minos, and Crete, where we get the word Cretan. Pan, where we get the word panic, pandemic, pandemonium. Okay, and pain, and pan backwards is nap, going back to the date rape drugs, the roofie. Roof is a structure. Some of these fraternal organizations are concerned with building, with masonry, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward here. Even without the wordplay, what is going on? You can remove all the wordplay and still see exactly what I'm saying, who's to blame. You know, the wordplay just makes it clear to you that this has been part of Western culture since the English fucking language and before, right? Latin, late in, okay? N-E-N is a Sumerian word for Lord, like Inky, late Lord, okay? An means Anu, another Sumerian deity, the sky god who's associated with the constellation Draco. Has to do with the North Elliptic Pole, I believe. And Draco, you know, has everything to do with being a dragon. Okay. So we can go on and on about why this is. So they've managed to separate Christian morality from state. Because even if you merge the church with the state, there's a bunch of pedophile priests. That's not going to solve the problem. It's when you separate true Christian morality from the state, right? The truth shall come to the light, right? Impress upon people these values, not cover things up to make your organization, group, race, college, your family, your fraternity, etc. look good. That is really what Western culture is. It is a rape culture at its very core, okay? And then people go to great lengths to make their groups look good, okay? So what is, you know, going back to wake up, right? What is king up? It's when they go, ayah! You know, I can't do it right now. They're fuming me. It'll hurt my lungs and make it harder for me to speak. But it's when you go, ayah, and you strike. When you kick, it takes a certain focus, right? The brain needs to function a certain way for people to do martial arts a certain way. And at the highest level of it is sparring with the Holy Spirit, which takes its toll on a body, and you can afford to take these drugs and these fillers. You can't afford to be intoxicated all the time. You've got to kick these habits to kick effectively, to strike effectively, to surgically strike. You've got to kick the habits, okay? And the worst habit of all is being complicit with the rape culture, okay? So I did a good job explaining to you, even though I'm drugged and I probably sound a little off. You know, they try to make me sound retarded so they look good. That's another thing they do. To murk means to kill. It also means to make people look bad. They sell clothes to promote their culture, make them look good. They know certain clothes look better on certain people than other people. And when you're in rape cults and reproductive cults and sex groups like Crowley's, you know, OTO and the Golden Dawn, which is, you know, the variations of these groups are popular in Hollywood still. Okay, you have people looking the same. Look at Hollywood celebrities carefully. A lot of them look similar to each other. Okay, some of these guys are said to be related. I believe Snoop Dogg is related to Ray J or something. Some of these guys are said to be related. Okay, and the clothes look better on them. They're designed for them. And of course, these are Ebert geeks. Fraternities are geeks. Okay, even when they're jocks, they're geeks. If you're a jock at Yale, you're still a geek. The problem here isn't, don't go run to the sororities who are doing this to you, a feminist sorority member. Don't go run to the geek. They're the ones doing it. Okay? Don't go run to the conservative. The military has a huge problem with rape. So does law enforcement if you do your research. There is nowhere to turn. There is only not conforming